Hello everyone, welcome to the next and the last video for these chapter 3 practice problems, which we're going to cover here some of this material that is actually pretty interesting, which is going to be converting back and forth between decimals and fractions. So if you love fractions, it's going to be interesting, and so is it going to be interesting? It's up to you to decide, but at least we should try to make it simple so that it's not too big of a problem, because this is very doable. So what we're going to be doing for this first one is we need to figure out how to convert from decimals to fractions. And then we'll go the next from fractions to decimals on a future problem. But here, to convert from decimals to fractions, we just have to understand that the number that's in front of the decimal point, that's the whole number part. And so for sure, since here we're going into a mixed number, the whole number part is definitely just going to be 6. You just take whatever's in front of the decimal, that's the whole number part. And then whatever is after the decimal, this is going to be the fractional part. And so this number here that goes 0.25, it might be recognizable to you which kind of fraction this is, because for example 25 cents is a quarter, which a quarter is a fraction as well. We can just put it as 1/4, and anticipating that that's going to be the answer, we can think about a more general way to do this. And so this number, if you think about how it's pronounced, of course the 2 is in the tenths place and the 5 is in the hundredths place, so this number goes hundredths. It is 25 hundredths, and this number 25 hundredths, when we convert it into a fraction, the 100 goes on bottom because it's hundredths, and so it's something out of 100. And literally, if we just put this top, the 25 over the 100, this is our fraction. And if you remember about fractions, this number is also called 25 hundredths. And so these are the same exact number. They have the same name as well. And now once we have this written as a fraction that's not reduced, we can start to reduce this one by some normal means. And so you could recognize the fact that this fraction in the numerator and denominator are both divisible by 25. So you could go divided by 25. If it's not clear, then you could also tell that they're both divisible by 5, and you could just do it in a couple of steps. But here, I'm going to divide by the greatest common divisor, which is 25. So on top, 25 divided by 25, of course, is 1. And on the bottom, 100 divided by 25 is 4. And so this fraction of 25 hundredths reduces to 1/4. So 6 1/4. And then we're going to give it another shot. We will have the same general strategy that any number that goes in front of the decimal is just the whole number part. So this is going to be 94 and some fraction. That fraction is going to be the fractional equivalent of this number, the 0.314, which if we think about how to pronounce this number, of course the 3 is in the tenths, the 1 is in the hundredths place, and the 4 is in the thousandths place. So this is going some number of thousandths. And which number? Of course it's 314 thousandths. So we're literally just taking this number, putting it on top, and then the bottom we are making based on which place the last number was in. So the 4 is in the thousandths place, so it goes 314 thousandths. And then we just have to carry on reducing this one. Now here it's not so clear what the greatest common divisor is, but I can tell for sure they're both divisible by 2. And so 314 divided by 2 is 157. That number, I'm already starting to think about what is going to be able to go into 157. But here we're dividing top and bottom by 2, of course. So on bottom it's going to go 500. Now the number 157, can't tell if it's a prime number or not. It sounds like it might be. I'm getting the feeling about it. But here we could just start dividing it by some stuff. And I'm thinking also off the top of my head if it should be divisible by something. That's how you can kind of go about this one. Now we talked about before divisibility rules. And if you can tell, of course, it's not divisible by 2 because it's odd. And if you add up the digits, that 1 plus 5 plus 7 add up to 13, so it's definitely not divisible by 3. And then 4 is not going to work, 5 is not going to work. 6 is not going to work. 7, of course, should go into 140. And so we know it's not divisible by 7. It's not looking very good, is it? This one feels like a prime number to me, and so we could just try random things, but nothing's going to work. Is it divisible by 11? No. And at some point here, we can just throw this one out because now it's not going to be divisible by anything. And so we're actually done. 157 500ths. That should be the end of it. And if you found out that this is actually divisible by something, I'll be so surprised, but I wish that you would tell me. And we're moving on to our next direction, starting with a fraction and converting it to a decimal. Now this one, since we're just using calculators these days, it's easy peasy, and we could just literally divide this one on the calculator. But if you wanted to be a little bit more old-fashioned, it still would be a matter of dividing these numbers. Of course, this fraction 5 over 16, it literally means 5 divided by 16 is one way to think of it. And the way that you would divide 5 by 16 is you would do 5 divided by 16 like this, and we can do some long division. Now, of course, 16 does not go into 5, and so that's where we have this process that we need to add the decimal point and then just add one of these freebie zeros. Of course, you can add as many zeros to the end of a number as you want, and it doesn't change it after the decimal point. And so 16 can go into 53 times, and then 3 times 16 is 48. We can subtract these, get 2. We can just keep adding zeros and bringing them down. It goes into there 1 time. We're rounding the quotient to hundredths, and so we should only go one more place. 1 times 16 is 16, and then we can subtract these, get 4. And so we're going to end up, 16 goes into 40 twice. And so we should round to the hundredths place. It's getting us this stuff, the 0.31. Or else we could just as easily go into here 5 divided by 16 and get our number like this. And so we could give it a shot on the next one. It's 70 45ths, and so 70 divided by 45. It's 1 point. Looks like that 5 is just going to be repeating forever, but we're just rounding to the hundredths, of course. So 1.56 will be the answer for this one. And so that does it for these problems. Thank you guys for watching. I hope it helps, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks.